Hello, sir. Look at the moves on Friday. That's the kind of Friday vibe that we're looking for. Marcus Heflin, good morning.
Good morning at this Finish Strong Friday. Everybody out there, welcome to Grow. We are so excited that you are here. And yes, my buddy, today is a solid day. Not only is our guest amazing and is going to pour into the agents out there, and yet I got a little TL boot camp happening today, man. We getting all trained up, ready to go as we end this first quarter and begin the second. And as a reminder, guys, March 1st is tomorrow. All right, everybody, shout out, happy birthday to Miss Pam, my mama. It's her birthday today. And we are on our activities. We're now in Q2. How was your Q1? How did it show up? How are you showing up, right? With standards, activities, everything. And yet this is your little gut check in case we need to make some adjustments along the way. Coach Kyle, how you feeling today, bud?
Man, I'm feeling good, man. Appreciate everybody reaching out about the impact of the 10-year letter from yesterday, right? Guys, if you haven't seen that, go watch the first, 7 minutes of yesterday's show, and it'll do some things to you. One of the things that we talk about, Marcus, on the show all the time is, mindset. And we also talk about skill set. And I'm doing great because we have a guest today, Marcus.
Yes, we do.
And this guest, if you guys have been fans of the show for a while, which, there's like 17 of you who have been, Marcus always says, Kyle's got this superpower where he just goes and like imposes friendship upon people. This is one of those people. I heard this dude talk one time and I was like, that guy and me are destined to be buds. He just doesn't know it yet. And true to my word, we are now buds. So, guys, this dude is, if you listen to him talk, you understand that he is not just dashingly handsome. There's a deep ocean of knowledge, wisdom, and empathy underneath. And I truly believe that that is one of the reasons that he is become and stays so successful in all the areas of his life that he does. It's not just looking good and being right. It's also true care and true seeking to understand people. With that, before I just continue to bromance all over the screen, guys, I'm going to introduce the one, the only Stephen Jack to you. Hello, Stephen.
How's it going? Thank you so much for having me.
Good morning. Good morning.
Man, we are so excited that you're here, brother. So for everybody and anybody out there who has not been graced by your presence and that amazing beard game that you call just a normal Friday, would you please give everybody out there a quick 30 to 60-second bio of where you come from, who you are, what you're doing, maybe some passions?
Absolutely. So name's Stephen Jack, background's actually in counseling. Got some published work on discourse analytics and whatnot. Right after that, ended up falling into real estate, specifically in the coaching sector, and really applying more of the psychological counseling elements into real estate training, coaching, teaching, just basically the communication aspect of it. Have been able to apply it not only in a corporate setting with MAPS coaching, as well as out in the field for a few years, managing a couple brokerages, as well as some very large producing teams. And really, as you were talking about, right, not just looking good and being right, yet building those authentic communications, using some of those counseling elements and whatnot to build that genuine, authentic connection and rapport with people, therefore to influence other people's lives.
No big deal, ladies and gentlemen. No, this is my point, right? You can just sit there and listen to the guy talk about analytics and psychology and sales, and he's just the man. Marcus, what are you hearing from there?
Well, the question I have is what made you or what drew you to that craft and to want to learn more about that and to dive in deeper?
So the full transparent story, what is that initially when right out of high school, I was like, I want to be a marine biologist. I want to go work with dolphins. It's cute. And then I did. I started out, that was my major, and I got a chance to do a few dolphin necropsies during dolphin rescue, not to go morbid here, right? Yet when I realized, yeah, this ain't for me. And the other courses that I was taking, general psychology and whatnot, ended up just being truly fascinated about it. But here's an interesting nuance to it, is that during that time, I was working with an emergency vet clinic, right, that worked with exotic animals, marine life and whatnot. And the themes, the little universe's ways of kind of providing that guidance, not to get too woo-woo here, but the universe's little nudges, right, was whenever someone would experience loss, grief, the vets, the techs would always send me in to go talk to the people. And they're like, yeah, Stephen, sure. And would always, there was a way in which I could provide that space. And that changed my trajectory, because then I started taking more advanced classes and whatnot, got to be a teacher's assistant. And from that, they were like, look, we'd like for you to be a research assistant. So there were numerous, professors at that time that were like, hey, be a part of this. Basically that really fueled my passion on the scholastic, on the more formal education side. Yet afterwards, what's interesting is that did tie into having an opportunity to work with cancer patients, right? Essentially as a patient advocate and working and navigating with all of those challenges that they go through. And it really did solidify that there's a part of me that, whether it be a caregiver mode or whether it be just general intrigue of the psychology of people, of how they process, how they think, how they operate, and how they view the world. It's just a natural curiosity that I think will never be satiated. I will forever be curious about how people process and how people perceive their world and how they maneuver through it.
It's so funny that you say that. I know Kyle's going to come in. Let me take it for just a second. It's so funny that you say it's the type of words that you're using. You got fascinated, right? And that fascination may never be satiated. I just want to say that word to sound fancy as well. And and yet you found this true intriguing thing to go down and adventure down and learn more about. And I got to be honest with you, understanding this is absolutely fascinating and carries over to any craft out there at a deeper level. Kyle,
Yeah.
what did you hear, buddy?
Well, a ton, like you said, and it's kind of funny because he segues into one of the things we were going to talk about today, guys. One of the things that I'll let you in behind the curtain that me and Marcus do when we have our guests is, one, we bring people that we resonate with, that we trust you will as well, but also we don't tell them what we're going to talk about.
Never.
On purpose.
Never.
Right, because a lot of times, man, it can change and it's not a canned response. And so Steven gets on this morning and is like, so I haven't heard anything from you. What are we going to talk about? And I was like, aha, surprise. Welcome to the show. What do you want to talk about today, man? And you can hear almost this connection of the past and his deep cuts and his curiosity and his desire to understand how people operate, and also that care that he can deliver during times of grief, right? Times of loss. And Steven just came right out the gate and was like, man, I kind of want to talk about like how grief shows up in high performance, and we got to still do things, and how to give yourself grace, and how also to stay gritty and do the things that are necessary to survive and thrive. And guys, I say this all the time. People don't drown by jumping in the river. They drown by staying underneath it. And the river can be stress. The river can be relationships. The river can, more often than not, be something like grief. And Steven has, he decided, guys, to give him applause, to be transparent and honest, like we like on this show. Steven's been dealing with some grief, man. Steven, I'll stop talking.
Yeah, well, and I really appreciated the organic approach, because how else can you have just an authentic conversation without just being like, hey, what's up, And when you ask that, to match the transparency, is that I very recently lost my father, and it's been a journey. It's been a process, obviously, and one of the things that I believe is important is that to note specifically, looking and observing myself as far as not just how I'm processing, yet what I am doing and how I'm showing up while processing, and obviously giving that grace and patience. I'm not the most patient of people in the entire world, and so learning that patience with myself has helped me really realize that something that I was truly avoiding, which was social interaction, right? I'm just gonna be blunt. I wanted to avoid social interaction. I wanted to bunker. I use the excuse, this is my introverted side. And, I don't know how to communicate it. And I don't want the world, like, I don't want people asking, how are you and whatnot. And what's interesting is that there was that period in which I just bunkered and focused on family and just focused on the immediate people around me. Yet what's been the most healing part of this journey the past week and a half has been, ironically, the thing that I've been avoiding. And it is communicating, and it is that social interaction. And, something when people are like, how are you? Oh my God. Like, if you just lose your parent or lose someone close to you, like, you don't want to hear, how are you doing? Because you want to say, I'm feeling like crap. That's how I'm feeling.
That's right.
Right. Yet at the same point in time, what's been helpful is that though I was avoiding people asking, how are you? What has been helpful, one, is being able to articulate what's in here, because then I'm able to make sense of it. When I'm able to say, it's a roller coaster, it's a combination, right? When I'm able to breathe it into life, it assigns like a label in which then I'm able to process that. I feel more efficiently and effectively than had I remained in a bunker. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And in fact, you took a different approach to your answers versus what you normally hear. Hey, how are you? I'm good. It's just a little tough right now. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm good. You hear that all the time. I love your answer though. It's a roller coaster.
Well, it would be inauthentic to say I'm good. That's not, it's like overall in that moment, it's a bunch of things you want to know about, right? It's just like, to say good. I think it's unrealistic. And honestly, like, I believe that, in my opinion, that would cut off a genuine reach out. Someone is taking a moment to genuinely reach out, and to me to not give an authentic response, to just say, I'm good. BS. That's me basically slapping their hand away and saying, don't touch me. Don't reach out to me. Don't give me this kind gesture that you just provided. So if you ask me a question, I'm going to answer from my filter, and I'm going to answer from my perspective because you asked, and here you are. So I believe it's an integrous thing to do, to respond truthfully to that question.
Guys, whether you're dealing with loss or depression or anxiety, or even quoted as sometimes a victim mentality, right? Not being a victim, but the mindset of that. I think you can take a lot from some of the stuff Stephen's saying here. Marcus and I, one of our foundational things that we talk about on this show is self-awareness equals self-mastery. And even though Stephen was dealing with one of the worst things that people have to go through, dealing with the ocean of emotions, he still took the time to be self-aware. How is this affecting me? How am I showing up? Taking the time to hold up the mirror and actually look at it. And I think it's a superpower, Stephen, if we're being honest, that you can do that. And I think there's a lot of lessons that people can take in their personal lives, and gosh, even in the frothy market that we've seen here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that makes a lot of sense, because if you think about it, the more inauthentic that we are with others, and very importantly to ourselves, it provides a level of disconnect to the world. And I think that if that comes from a place of worrying about judgment or shame, this is just my opinion, where it's like, I believe that if people put on that filter, they put on that happy face, unconsciously segmenting themselves and disconnecting from reality, so to speak, as we all experience it, is just, I don't know, it's almost like you're creating this inner turmoil or chaos almost unintentionally by being inauthentic. It's like you're lying to yourself and you're lying to the world, and that you are.
Yep.
So what do you do? And that, I think, causes such a chaotic array of emotions, rather than just being honest in that moment, right here, right now, and having that as self-awareness, as you put it.
Yeah, man.
If you think about it, it's you lost a relationship, right? And just in the physical form.
Mm-hmm.
But because you chose to act differently from that event, you have grown so many other authentic relationships. and you've given other people not only permission to be in their fields if they're going through or still have something lingering from the
Yep.
past. And you've also set an example on how people that don't know that feeling yet could consider handling that. And my friend, that is a very beautiful thing. And that goes back to some of Bold and MAPS and just psychology in general of whatever you're handed, it's on you how you respond to it. And I just want to give you some love, man. You're responding exceptionally well.
Well, thank you, brother. And I think that I cannot take full credit, obviously, for all of that. Within myself, it's many years of being in great rooms with great leaders, great people, great coaches. And I think ultimately what it comes down to is this, it's not just something that I thank you for the compliment, right? I'm not, neglecting that. And at the same point in time, I feel that it's important to say that self-awareness, so to speak, has stemmed from and/or it becomes easier when I'm looking at it from other people's lenses and kind of looking at the world through my truth is not the truth. There is not one single truth. There are multiple versions of truths out there. And just stepping outside and looking at the others, it almost, for someone that's as neurotic as I am, right, is that when I'm able to step outside and look at things through other people's lenses and saying, okay, they're asking this question for a good faith and good gesture, I think that that's where the awareness starts, maybe for those people that maybe hallucinate that they're self-aware, but may not be.
Wink.
Yeah. Right. I mean, if you're not self-aware, I don't know how you'll be aware that you're not self-aware, and good luck. Yet maybe the first step in discovering that, right, would be to be able to say, let's just pretend here that I'm going to put on those lenses that other person's wearing and see their version of truth. And that ties so much into not just life, but I mean, again, sales, business, everything like that, because when we're talking about the relationship, negotiations, just conversations, you're seeing that the questions that they're asking, their descriptions, it gives you insight to their view of the world. And as it's tying into grief or anything like that, how are you? Is it cringy to receive? Yes. And I know it's coming from a good place, which allows me to give that grace to be like, here's the answer to your question. So it's like, and it starts by looking at the other people and saying, what's their lens? What's their intention?
Yeah, it's the offering of the true intentionality behind the thing, right? And like you said, looking at others and understanding what they might see. Guys, like, to take this and just drop you in the business world. Like, this is so personal, but drop you in the business world. How often are we taking time to look at it through our clients' eyes? Like, the thing that's going on. We do this every day. And when you're not talking to them every day or once a week or twice a week during the process, they have anxiety. They don't know what's going on. Are you taking the time to see things through other people's eyes?
I like that question. It's a powerful one across the board, Kyle. And what's their lens? And if you really take, if you were to say to yourself, I'm curious. There was a mega team that during the COVID time, they put some ideas on the business board, right? Because everybody was shifting, and they said, oh, we can't do that, we can't do that. And the leader, Alex Helton, I'll give him some love. He said, okay, we need to change that narrative. We can't do it, but if we could, how could we? And what would we do, right? And it opened up the doors to where they beat up their P&L and got super profitable without missing a beat, and then took over the number one spot 1 year later. It was amazing. So I used that business to go here. What if we every once in a while took a second and said, what if my view is completely blinding me from a different one? What if I looked at this and everything I thought was no longer existent? How did they look at it, or how could I look at it differently? Stephen, have you ventured down that road and kind of used that tactic in whether it's speaking with somebody in coaching or yourself or anything?
Absolutely. And I believe that when we're talking about the lens that we're seeing it through, we also have the opportunity to understand the emotions that we are creating and eliciting by seeing it through and choosing. All right, I'm going to get real kind of edgy here.
Let's go.
Choosing the lens that you're seeing things through. It's that self-fulfilling prophecy, because you're going to see what you look for, period. You're going to see what you look for. And so I think that that's the key thing, is that if you are feeling blinded, consider that the emotion tied to it. Are you only seeing it this way because there's that emotional connection that you have to it, to where it's either scarcity of losing it or an absolute grit and determination that you're like, I'm going to kill myself doing this, right? I'm going to keep on doing it. I'm going to keep on doing it. When maybe detaching just a little bit and saying, all right, if I wasn't so emotionally connected to this right now, if I was committed yet unattached to the result, how could this show up differently? And that's life, that's business, that's everything. In just that one moment when you're committed yet unattached. And I think it's that attachment that causes most of our turmoil, and it causes a lot of us to go into potentially that victim mindset, potentially that negative, because now you're beating yourself up, because it's like you're setting yourself up for failure, all because of the lens that you're choosing to see things through.
Yeah, guys. And when he says detachment, he doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, I don't care what happens. And yet he does. It's kind of the idea behind being happily dissatisfied, right? Like, I am super happy and okay with whatever happens. Therefore, I'm detached for it. I want the best. I want the greatness from everybody. And whatever comes out of it, we're going to make it the best. Hot potatoes today, Stephen Jack. I'm just here for the ride.
I was here for the carbs if it's hot potatoes, but whatever.
Hey,
no, I'm here for the carbs too.
Somebody say carbs. Somebody say
one
carbs.
One of the things that I want you guys to hear and take away, at least just personally for me, that's standing out in my reticular activation system here, to sound fancy like Stephen and Marcus, there's my chance, is the seeking of permission to be authentic, and then also giving people and allowing that. We joke, and we said it in the beginning of the show, one of the things that I do is just awkwardly go introduce myself to people and be like, hey, we're friends now. One of the reasons behind that, guys, is because I know personally, and also other people struggle with social anxieties, and they want to look good and be right, and they don't want to be silly. However, underneath, they deeply crave the connection. So I'm like, hey, let me go ahead and suck the awkwardness out of the room by being as awkward as possible. And then you see it, just like Stephen was talking about with grief. Like, you realize that underneath, even though it cannot be the best question possible, underneath there is a deep desire of connection, care, and empathy underneath. And guys, like, what would our lives look like if we just were our authentic self and invited other people to be that as well?
It's you see people's true power when they're their authentic self, and in the room, in the bold room especially, we give everybody that's in there, every agent, every client, every business owner, we say the minute you be vulnerable in this room, you raise the room. The minute you shed like true honesty out there about your growth, about your emotions, about your mindset, everybody else gets permission to step into that with you. So Stephen, I'm gonna say thank you again for everyone in your world that you have acted this way with. You have raised them in their life and in that moment, and now you get to do it to anybody and everybody who watches this video across the country. So thank you, sir. And we could talk to you for about 4.5 days, and unfortunately, we've got a time slot. So on this, first and foremost, thanks for being here. Second, are there any parting words, any kind of motto that you live by, anything that's weighing on you that you want to leave these agents with, as we said, as we bid adieu?
Absolutely. I mean, I would say that when you're talking about the transparency, I believe that you're able to attract your tribe without chasing it down, because you're emulating that energy in which people are attracted to. And as long as you continue that authenticity will attract your people. And focusing on the consistency, focusing on the activities rather than the results, right? AKA, I'm not focusing on getting better. I'm focusing on experiencing emotion day by day. And I'm committed to focusing on that, yet unattached, and saying the result will be what the result is going to be based on what I'm choosing to focus on today.
The man is going through everything that you don't want to go through and is still showing up to pour into others, ladies and gentlemen. It's a testament of who this guy is. Stephen Jack, always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. I mean it.
Thank you very much, brother. We'll see you soon, buddy.
Take care.